Assassin's Creed Chronicles China is the first of 3 Chronicles games scheduled for release this year. India and Russia are both in the pipeline and looking to drop when they're good and ready. Assassin's Creed Chronicles China is the story of Ezio-trained assassin Xiao Jun as she returns to her homeland and discovers the entire Brotherhood there was wiped out. She goes on a murder spree in an attempt to recollect a stolen artifact from the Templars, the Assassin's generation-long arch-rivals. ACCC is not like a traditional Assassin's Creed game where you explore an open 3D world. Instead, it takes a heavy cue from classic Prince of Persia games and Mark of the Ninja and plays out on a 2.5D playing field, but with an Assassin's Creed coat of paint on top. Players can accomplish their mission, which generally boils down to go from point A to B and killing target C in whatever manner they see fit, though the game heavily emphasizes playing as stealthily as possible. Xiao Jun can scoot from cover to cover to sneak up on her enemies or to avoid conflict altogether. She can also climb certain walls, ceilings, and pipes, and move from the foreground to the background planes if a transition element is available, like a footbridge or a ledge to swing across using her rope darts. She has a small array of secondary tools, like throwing darts to trigger objects from afar, firecrackers to blind or distract enemies, and she can whistle to try to lure enemies her way. Unwary enemies can be killed with a single blow, but enemies who are alerted will put up a big fight. Though Xiao Jun can block and counter her enemy attacks, it's intentionally not nearly as easy as the bigger 3D open-world games. Conceptually, ACCC makes a great stealth platformer as players dodge cones of vision and try to perfect no-kill and no-detection runs. The game is also set in beautifully hand-painted environments and accented with a nice little soundtrack. On the mechanical side of things, ACCC is functional, but I feel the controls are a little more complex than they need to be for such a simple concept. But once I got the hang of them, they weren't so bad. I did run into 1 or 2 very small issues where my character simply wouldn't interact with the object that was right in front of her, but a quick checkpoint refresh solved those tiny bumps in the road. I didn't experience any game-halting technical bugs. ACCC is without its own personality, aside from the visual art style. The gameplay feels slow and clunky, which is a contrast to what an assassin should be, quick and lethal. As far as stealth experiences go, it's pretty average, but covered with a very pretty coat of paint and attached to the name of a super successful franchise. The music, while beautiful, even has elements of Ezio's family theme inserted into it. Though Xiao Jun was trained by Ezio, she's not a member of his family. Instead, this feels like a cheap tactic to have fans mentally flash back to the series' peak. But that's not my biggest issue with the game. While Chronicles is a perfectly serviceable game, China, along with India and Russia, are locations that fans have been crying to see in Assassin's Creed games since the series started. I feel a massive opportunity has been lost by wasting these settings on a smaller 2.5D game instead of fleshing them out into living, breathing worlds with their own creative characters and storylines. Instead, it feels like generic assassin girl chases bad guys for vengeance and to take back what was once hers. Big whoop. More than once, Chronicles China relies on the cheesy action video game trope of running away from a burning building escape sequence. It was cliché and boring before it did it the first time, and Chronicles manages to do it multiple times in its short playthrough. Chronicles China isn't broken. It's not bad. It's marked as a bargain game with a tiny $10 price tag, but Ubisoft's other 2D plane games recently have all been much better than this. Rayman, Child of Light, Trials Fusion, and Valiant Hearts. It's a pretty game, but it's dull. It's like going out on a date with a beautiful person, but not having anything to talk about, and you can just feel there's no chemistry there. With 2.5D stealth and using an established franchise like Assassin's Creed as its base, it could have been a great way for the series to experiment with new ideas, both in terms of story and gameplay mechanics, but instead it plays it entirely too safe. And that's why it gets a worth try. Neither amazing nor is it terrible. This is for superfans of either stealth or Assassin's Creed games, but neither of those fan bases should expect to have Chronicles knock their socks off. This video is made possible through generous fan donations on Patreon.